Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. We are live every Friday night, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. Don't forget, it's a listener-sponsored station, so if you like what you hear tonight, and tonight we have a guest that I've been looking forward to for a very, very long time. If you like what you hear, please visit the donate button and make a donation to the station. And real quick, while I'm on the subject, I'm putting a call out for sponsors who want to help sponsor this show. So if you want your business or your website to be promoted on the show like every half hour, I'll do a live commercial for you on the show, and you can contact me at oppermanreport@gmail.com. Okay, now coming up, we got in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have Cindy Sheehan running Africa from the group in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the group Move, that was burned, a whole entire family and friends at a little commune over there was burned alive back in the, I guess it was the 80s. And the surviving member, Ramona Africa, is going to be coming on.
It was the 70s.
Was it this? No, Ramona, was it the 70s, Mark?
Yeah, I believe it was around 73.
No way, man, because I met them in 1977 at Yippee headquarters, so it had to be after that. Okay, right. But we have with us today an elder statesman from the 60s revolution, Mark Rudd, former member of the Weather Underground, in fact, a founding member. If you ever read Doonesbury, this is Megaphone Mark. Are you not?
That's Megaphone Mark. I'm not sure that I'm Megaphone Mark. Allegedly, Trudeau based the character.
I'm really looking forward to having you on. Mark Rudd is the author of the book. It's available on Amazon.com, and it's also available on my blog, The Opperman Report. Mark Rudd, Underground, My Life in the SDS and Weathermen. Mark, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me on, Ed.
Mark, I'm thrilled to have you on. Because I like to get these elder statesmen like yourself who actually put their butt on the line.
I'm 66 years old, going on about 24, I think.
I hear you, bro. Yeah, I'm 53, man. It's been a long road, but I'm still plugging away. So Mark, tell us, how do you want to start? You want to tell us from the beginning of the story, or you want to tell us what you're doing now?
Well, I'll give you a little teaser on the latter. I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm involved right now at the moment in the struggle, to control the Albuquerque Police Department.
Right.
A report came out yesterday from the Department of Justice, just lambasting, just pillaring the police. They've killed over 30 people in the last 4 years, and this is the police murder capital of the United States. So I'm involved in trying to figure out how to organize diverse kinds of people into some kind of struggle to gain enough power to control the police. Anyway, that's what I'm up to now. When I was 18 years old in 1965, the United States invaded Vietnam with main force troops. I went down in April of 65. I turned 18 in June of 65, and I went down and registered for the draft. My brother was in the Army at the time, and my father was a retired lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserves. So that's what we did. You registered for the draft. I didn't pay that much notice to the American invasion of Vietnam. It was actually quite comparable to the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Main force troops going in. However, when I got to Columbia University in 1960, in September of 1965, I was a freshman. I noticed that the most interesting and intelligent people on campus were involved in learning about the war and fighting against it. And I wanted to. They were very attractive people. I wanted to hang out with those people, and so I did. And from them, I learned a lot about the nature of the war in Vietnam, our attack on Vietnam, and what our goals are, and about the system underneath that. And I became a member of Students for Democratic Society, SDS. It was the largest radical student organization at the time. In 1965, it possibly had 100 campus chapters. By 1969, 4 years later, it had over 400, and was leading demonstrations that involved hundreds of thousands of people. But that's part of the story. Do you want me to go on at this pace? You want me to tighten it up? You want me to?
No, Mark, I've heard you. I listened to just about every interview that you've done on YouTube, and I have total confidence in your ability to tell this story. And I've enjoyed listening to you for the past couple of weeks. So you just go ahead, and as I want to interrupt and ask you things, I'll rudely interrupt you.
You interrupt. I can and leave lots of room for discussion.
Sure.
Oh, incidentally, do you have callers?
You know what we do? We take questions in the chat room, and they'll be passed on to us. But we take callers sometimes as well. It depends. Usually, I have so many questions that we don't have time.
Yeah, for 30 years I was a classroom teacher at a community college here in New Mexico, in Albuquerque, and I enjoy the give and take of classrooms. I enjoy discussion. Anybody wants to ask questions, make comments. If you want to break in, that's fine.
Okay.
Anyway, so for the next 3 years, 65 to 68, I was a full-time student and a full-time activist and organizer in the anti-war movement, of which the student movement was a part, and STS was one organization in that student movement.
Well, let's start with this. Now, this was mostly in New York City, or were you moving around as well?
No, I was a student in New York City. Just became extremely active, organizing at Columbia in the sense of knocking on doors, talking to people about the war in Vietnam, setting up tables for literature, studying, running teach-ins, having confrontations. We had a strategy. The strategy was to expose the ways in which the university was involved in the war machine. At that time, there was an ideal that a university was a place of objectivity, of searching for the truth. It's one of those, classical notions that's just about dead now. But we used that to expose a contradiction, namely that technical in engineering and in science, but also in social science, were used for U.S. In the benefit of U.S. Strategic objectives and military objectives. So in wanting to attack both the war and the system behind the war, which we called imperialism, which is the desire on the part of the United States to dominate and control the world. Our work became educating, and our strategy was to educate through confrontation. So eventually we hit on a secret involvement of the university in a research think tank that developed strategies and technical capabilities for the U.S. military. It was called the Institute for Defense Analyses. Columbia was a member with other universities, but the nature of the work and even the membership was secret. However, a member of SES had discovered it literally in the stacks doing research. So we attacked the university's complicity with the war. And in order to do that, we had to involve many more people. We were maybe 75, 100 people with a core of maybe 25. But the university was very big. It was about 25,000 or so. And so a small number can't do anything. So I saw my work and that of my comrades in SDS as organizing. Now, there's an interesting aspect to this, which is that I came from a fairly apolitical family in the suburbs of New York.
What suburb?
New Jersey, Maplewood, New Jersey.
Okay, I'm from Staten Island, yeah.
Uh-huh. My family is actually from Elizabeth, New Jersey. Okay. Which is right across the Kill Van Kill in Staten Island.
That's right, yeah.
But we were. My parents were I think they were Democrats. They had good things to say about Roosevelt, as did my grandmother, because she got a Social Security, which she thought was a miracle. And but my father always told me, keep your head down. Well, I was not keeping my head down, and the reason was I fell in with a group of other SDS people who were red diaper babies. Does that ring a bell? Do you know the term red diaper baby?
Yeah, sure. The old Reds from the 50s had babies, and then they brought their kids up to be little hippie types, right?
Well, not necessarily hippie or organizers.
Okay.
Yes, red diaper baby means children of socialists or communists or labor people, and the kids grew up organizing. So the people I fell in with were, to a large extent, red diaper babies, and they knew how to organize, and they had a strategy for organizing, which was involving people, building relationships. In fact, that's how I was recruited when I was a freshman in the dorms. A guy by the name of David Gilbert, who's was a senior at the time, came knocking on doors to meet freshmen who might want to come to an SDS meeting. So the idea of organizing or the strategy of organizing was involving more people. And so I got caught up in this. The work at Columbia lasted about, I started when I was a freshman. It had actually begun years before I got there. Was in the spring of 1965 while I was still a high school student. Dave Gilbert was arrested. Anyway, by 68, a couple of things happened in early 68. One was the Vietnamese attacked at over 160 cities and bases in South Vietnam. See, up to that point in the war, the American public had been told the usual lies, the same lies that they use now for Afghanistan and they used for Iraq, which is we're winning and the enemy is being defeated, we're killing enough of them, and the light at the end of the tunnel. But Well, they were putting out all these lies for years, but then on January 31st, 1968, the Vietnamese struck in multiple places throughout South Vietnam, and they even American embassy in Saigon. In other words, the capital of the occupation. So the American public switched in a matter of months from being pro-war 60% to being anti-war 60%. And this 2-month period, which is historic, it's known as the Tet Offensive, ended around the end of March, and it had an amazing punctuation, which was that on March 31st, 1968, Lyndon Johnson, the president, went on the air to announce that he was going to begin peace talk with the Vietnamese for president. Divisive. Well, that was amazing. I mean, we had literally forced a sitting president to abdicate. And that was a great victory, but we didn't understand how great a victory it was till much later. Now, there's a lot to this story. Just as a kind of a personal aside, I spent 3 weeks during that period in Cuba.
What year did you go to Cuba?
During the Tet Offensive.
68.
It was February of 1968.
Okay.
And I met Vietnamese there. That was actually the purpose of the trip, that American anti-war activists, SDS members, 30 of us, I believe, were traveled to Cuba. It was illegal at the time to go to Cuba. And we met Vietnamese.
Well, let me interrupt you then. How'd you get in?
Oh, you had to go to Mexico.
Okay.
And from Mexico you could fly there. But they didn't stamp our passports, so there was no proof that we were there.
Gotcha.
And then we returned via a freighter to Canada, and from Canada we made our way back to the U.S. They never prosecuted, although some people, I believe, were prosecuted at some point. However, we met the Vietnamese, and they told us that they were going to win, that the U.S. Public would eventually grow tired of the war, that they weren't going anywhere. It was their country that they were defending from attack, and that they would win, and the United States would withdraw. They urged us to keep fighting in the anti-war movement because they recognized the importance of that movement. And I guess many things happened subsequent in my life, but probably the thing I'm most proud of is having been a member of the anti-war movement, along with millions of other people. And collectively, we helped stop that war of aggression. I believe it's one of the finest moments of American democracy.
Yeah, I agree.
That there was such a movement. Anyway, I got all fired up. I also got fired up around revolution.
But wait a second. You go to Cuba now, right? Did you meet Castro?
Oh, no.
But you met Che.
Che had died in October of 1967, and this was February of 1968.
Oh, you got to be kidding me! I've listened to a lot of your stuff. I've read your blog. I thought you actually met Che in Cuba.
No. I became a member, in a sense, of the cult of Che.
Gotcha.
The Cubans were pushing Che as a model revolutionary. The year they had declared, Fidel had declared on January 1st, 1968 was the year of the heroic guerrilla, and I wanted to be like Che. I wanted to be a revolutionary, and Che inspired millions of people around the world. Still to this day, he inspires people around the world. However, this goes into part of the story. Che, the strategy that Che used, which was to export guerrilla warfare from Cuba to other parts of Latin America. They actually even tried it in Africa. That strategy never worked. Che had been killed by the CIA and the Bolivian military just a few months before I got to Cuba. But we were so fired up at the heroism of the struggle against U.S. Domination of Latin America that it took me years to recognize that the strategy that Che had followed, and that the kidding for a brief 18 months, that strategy was a losing strategy. That comes into the story later when my faction of SDS believes that we're following Che's strategy and tries to implement it. But that's a bit later in the story. Okay. Coming back to New York in at the end of February '68, I was all fired up, and I wanted to the chapter, the Columbia SDS chapter, to be more confrontational. I was elected chairman. I was a junior. I was 20 years old. Wow. April 4th, 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated. Now, this happened exactly 5 days after Johnson had abdicated. But the shock of Martin Luther King being killed was it's one of these historic events that's kind of like at the level of 9/11 or even Kennedy's assassination, where you think the country will never be the same again. And I think that's true. See, what happened was immediately that night, people started rioting in black ghettos in over 100 cities in the U.S., including Harlem, which was at that time the capital of Black America. And that was right adjacent to Columbia University. Columbia is on a ridge. It's called Morningside Heights. Used to be called Harlem Heights. But that ridge looks down over this vast valley, which is Harlem. Well, my friend and I went over to Morningside Drive to look down, and the place was on fire. And there were sirens and wailing and people screaming and smoke and fire engines and, oh God. So we ran down into Harlem, and we wound up wandering the streets all night. You know, and it was this moment when I thought, yes, the revolution is here. It's happening. People are erupting in anger. It was amazing. I never felt threatened at all. In fact, people would come up to me and say, you should be careful. Maybe you should go back, go home. You know, you don't want to be hurt. But people were almost joyous too, in the sense of I wouldn't say joyous, but it was kind of like a relief.
Rebellion
in the streets, you know?
Yeah.
Well, that was April 4th. After that, the next day, Columbia University was not the same place, because people just were shaken that the vicious racism, the murderous racism was continuing. It was like every person, black, white, there weren't very many Hispanics at Columbia at the time. Everyone had to stop and think, who are we? Well, we had been involved in, at that point, two issues. One was the university's involvement in the war, in research for the war, IDA, and the other was opposing the university's expansion into the surrounding community in the form of taking over a part of a public park, Morningside Park, and building a gym there. So SDS had been involved with neighborhood people in opposing this gym. We saw it as a racist expansion of the university. Also, the university had been buying up properties and kicking people out, working class people, poor people, in order to expand the university. So we defined the university as being institutionally racist. There was a protest in which people were suspended, myself included. It had happened earlier in March, actually, but it came to a head on April 23rd with a disciplinary action on the part of the university. The white students of SDS joined with the black students of the American Society, and I'm going to wrap up this in a portion of it soon.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Essentially, what happened was a spontaneous uprising on April 23rd, just 2.5 weeks after Martin Luther King was murdered, against the war, the university's involvement with the war, and its institutionalized racism in the form of the building the gym in Morningside Park. It was not planned, but SDS and the Student Afro-American Society jumped into the leadership. We occupied in total 5 buildings for over a week. Over 1,000 people, more than 1,000 people were in the buildings. Finally, the university called the police. The police had been gnawing on their nightsticks for days, ready to get at us. And they, about 1,000 police attacked and beat up hundreds of people, arrested 620. It was essentially a police riot. After that,
okay, we got a break coming up, Mark. With Mark Rudd, former member of Weather Underground. He's telling us about his initial involvement as a leader of Students for a Democratic Society and the takeover of Columbia University back in 1968. Just fascinating stuff. Mark is the author of, one more time, Mark is the author of Underground, My Life in SDS and Weathermen. And we're very lucky to have him here tonight. But Mark Rudd is an elder statesman in the original resistance to the U.S. oppression around the world and against the invasion of Vietnam. Back right after this. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report every Friday night, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on freedomslips.com. I am your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. Before we get back to our guest, Mark Rudd, author of Underground, My Life in the SDS and the Weathermen, I just want to remind everybody that coming up tomorrow, got a whole bunch of appearances coming up. Tomorrow I'm going to be on CS Key's show in San Diego, 10 a.m. It's on my Facebook page. Coming up April 21st, I'm going to be on John B. Wells' Caravans of Midnight. And coming up on this weekend, I'm going to be on the Barry Curtis report. So I got a whole bunch of shows coming up promoting my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator. But before, ignore me, because we got a great guest, a historical figure, Mark Rudd, former Weather Underground member, and he's telling us about how he got started with the SDS and the takeover of the campus of Columbia back in 1968. Mark, now in that first takeover, was WBAI and Bob Fast and those guys, were they instrumental in that one?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
We got a lot of our news from WBAI. Although there was a local, or rather a campus radio station, WKCR. that covered the demonstrations at Columbia a lot closer. But yes, WBAI and Bob Fass were part of the New York scene. And I also want to emphasize that the anti-war movement was growing in New York during that 3-year period, 65 to 68. And I went on my first march in the fall of 65, and it might have been 100,000 people, but by 68, there was 500,000 people marching twice a year, fall and spring, in huge anti-war mobilizations. So New York was the center of anti-war activity during that whole period, and WBAI was an important part of that.
Yeah, Bob Fest would get on. I think we might have lost the station now. Okay. Yeah. Every week this has been happening. Usually it's 6:37. This week it's 5:37. Let me pull Ann back in and, sorry about this, Mark. Okay, well, let me see. Sorry, audience. Okay, we're on. Sorry, we're on. Go ahead, Mark. Continue. We were talking about how BAI, and which was a listener-sponsored station back in New York City at that time, was able to mobilize people to these demonstrations and stuff.
Yeah, you were telling a story about Bob Fass.
Yeah, I used to listen to the repeats. I'm telling you, I used to listen back in like 1980, because I graduated high school in 1980, and I used to go down to BAI. I was involved down there like in 79, 80 with Lynn Samuels and Citizen Kafka and Rosie O'Donnell, the whole Friday night lineup. I used to do comedy on the radio and stuff like that. But I used to listen to the archives and the old recordings of those demonstrations, like the ones at Times Square and the ones at where they took over the train station, Grand Central Station. Where you guys took over.
Wasn't there a recent documentary movie about Bob Fass?
I don't know. Is Bob Fass still alive?
Don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Google it while we're talking.
Okay. Well, are you in touch with any of those guys from those days?
Oh, yeah. Quite a number of people.
Like who?
Both my comrades in Weatherman and in SDS, and people who weren't, such as Tom Hayden, who's in L.A. Do you know Tom?
No, I never met Tom. I did meet Abby Hoffman a few times because I was a member of the Yippies on the Lower East Side at 9 Bleecker Street when Dana Beal was running things down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I guess I got involved with them about 77.
How old?
I was in high school.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Abby Hoffman was a fugitive until about 80, 81, I think.
Right. Yeah, I was down there the day he turned himself in. And then I got a copy of his book. I met him up at BAI the first time, I guess it was around 81, 82, and I got a copy of his book. And then later on, he did for NYPIRG, the New York Public Interest Research Group. He did an appearance for them, and I met him then again over there.
Bob Fass is still alive. He is 80 years old now.
Wow.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia. Radio Unnameable it's a film called Radio Unnameable by Paul Loveless and Jessica Wolfson.
Oh, wow.
Legendary radio personality Bob Fass revolutionized. Hold on, I just lost it. Late night radio, and I used to listen to Bob Fass.
Yeah, anyway, I think everybody did.
The movie is called Radio Unnameable, and it's out on DVD.
Hey, do you remember that guy that used to call in and scream "Commie Nudie"?
No.
I remember. Okay, all right, because I got a whole story about him. But okay, listen, finish up. Tell us about how, because now you were with SDS, which was radical, but pretty much mainstream, and then you wanted to take it to the next level.
Well, the strike at Columbia University was too much of a success in the sense that it became the model for militant students take over a university. And it hit the press. It was an enormous story in the press. And in fact, it was at that time that the character called Mark Rudd, as the radical student leader, was created by the media. Remember, the national media is located in New York, and we were right there in New York. So it became a big story for the New York Times and for Time Magazine and for the TV news, and it became a model. In a way, we pushed the anti-war movement further because of this takeover. We recruited more students. We built the movement, and that was our goal. So we said, oh, wow, we're doing great. This is fabulous. Confrontation, militancy, that's the right way to do it. And so it went to our heads, and we said, all we have to do is repeat this on campus after campus. And not only will we end the war, but we will create revolution. More and more students will be like us, revolutionaries. They will become anti-imperialists.
Yeah.
They will oppose racism. They will be for national liberation of the black colony and other non-white people within the United States. Will support the Black Panther Party and the other black revolutionaries. Cuba got its freedom. China got its freedom. Vietnam is beating the United States militarily. It's the end of the American empire, and the people of the world are in revolt against American domination.
Okay, but Mark, but they weren't they? And even in France, the students in France were in the streets and stuff like that and taking over. There was progress going on. No.
June 1968. I remember very vividly looking at a newspaper, and there on the front page of the New York Daily News or New York Times was a picture of a French kid carrying a sign, Columbia, Paris.
Amen.
Yeah. And it was world revolution. We were incredibly optimistic. It was it was wishful thinking, because we thought that American imperialism was beginning to fall, and that it would be replaced with global socialism. Now, the strategy that we wanted to follow was guerrilla warfare, armed struggle. Remember that at that time, the Black Panther Party was. Well, this is a long story. The civil rights movement had split. The original strategy of Martin Luther King, which was integration to be achieved through nonviolent means, ending, of course, the legal segregation, but eventually the economic injustice of racism. That strategy was supplanted by Black Power, which was a whole long story. And I do urge you to invite someone onto your show to talk about Black Power and its significance. But
yeah, we just had Lorenzo Kumbawa Irvin.
Oh,
you know him?
Any relation to Julius Irving?
No. I might be getting his name wrong too, but Lorenzo is one of my favorite guests we had on. He was a member of the Black Panther Party of Self-Defense, and he actually hijacked a plane to Cuba. And then, fascinating. Oh, I forgot to record. Okay, fascinating story with Lorenzo. I invite you to look up the archive on that show. The name is right. Lorenzo Kumbawa Irvin. And there was an international campaign to get him released from prison. He was facing life in prison. I think it was double life, and he got out in like 15 years. Incredible man. Still to this day, he's in Memphis, struggling, organizing protests for social justice. A real hero of mine on many levels. As you are, I hate to say, because I know you kind of shy away from it.
Well, hold on. If I tell you about this story and what I think now, I may not be your hero anymore.
I know what you think now. I'm going to change your mind, so continue. Okay.
Well, it was a fantasy. See, in effect, we were tripping out after Columbia, we tripped out on the idea of revolution, and we reached too far. We said, okay, the war in Vietnam is only one war out of, there will be future wars. And we were right about that. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to end the system that gave us the war. Well, that's a big undertaking, a huge undertaking. But one of the things we did was we attacked the anti-war movement and said, you are not radical enough. We are the true radicals. Those of us who want anti-imperialist revolution. The anti-war movement doesn't go far enough. It's not enough. SDS, we were a faction in SDS. By 1969, the faction became known as the Weathermen. And there's a whole long story about where that name comes from. But our faction said SDS is not revolutionary enough. In June of 1969, our faction took over the national office of SDS, a number of the chapters and a number of the regional offices. I was elected the last national secretary of SDS in June of 69. By December of 69, and remember the war was still raging now, 68 and 69 were the 2 years that had the absolute highest casualties. If you go down into the Vietnam Memorial in D.C., you descend. It's like you're walking along and suddenly you're at ground level, you're beneath the ground, and you're looking up at this wall of names. When you get to 68, 69, that's when you're deepest into the ground. So the war was still raging. And we said, we've got to close SDS. We've got to destroy SDS so that students will be revolutionary like us. So I and a small group of maybe 8 or 10 other people made the horrendous, ridiculous, insane, criminal decision to close the national offices and the regional offices of the largest student, radical, and anti-war organization in the United States. Over 100,000 members, campus chapters of 400 or more, on not only on college campuses, but high school and post-college chapters. And talk about democracy. A small group made the decision for 100,000 people. Why? Because we knew we were right. Now, to me...
But Mark, wait. But what was your thinking? Like, why didn't you want the sit-ins and the general strike type movement, the street, the protests, as well as the more agitation of the bombings and stuff? Like, why wouldn't you go for a two-pronged approach? What was the theory?
Harder. We felt that that in effect we decided that we couldn't do both. And that we have to only do the armed struggle, guerrilla warfare, clandestine. And we thought that the anti-war movement, the movement above ground, the legal movement, would take care of itself.
Okay.
But in so doing, yes, we did have an idea of a two-pronged offensive strategy. And yet we did destroy this organization. A few people argued, like a guy named Ted Gold, argued for keeping the organization, for the two-pronged approach. But we were extremely arrogant. Yeah. And we thought we had the answer, and the only answer. Well,
let me interrupt you again, because now around that time there was a lot of COINTELPRO, there was a lot of at that time until this very day. But there's all this COINTELPRO infiltration, agitators, agent provocateurs. Do you think maybe that there were guys on the inside that kind of steered you to, that knew what they were doing and steered you to this road?
The major influence was the attack on the Panthers.
Okay.
when they started killing Panthers, especially December 4th, 1969, the murder of Fred Hampton. But before that, the attack on the Panthers being arrested, Panthers dying, offices being burned, that created an atmosphere of war. And we responded, yes. We responded by saying, we're at war, and it's not enough to just organize on college campuses. We have to begin guerrilla warfare. Now, the actual decision, it's a good question you ask, but I've always been positive, pretty positive, that they had no infiltrators within, except for one whom they blew very early on, a few months at the highest level of decision making. No, this story is particularly interesting because we fucked it up.
No, wait. We're on FM too. You can't curse at all.
Okay. We fucked up ourselves.
Yeah.
We screwed it up. And again, we may have been under attack and responded to the attack, but I don't believe it was infiltrators unless they took over my brain somehow and the brain of my closest comrades whom I knew intimately. And to this day, I have no indication that any of the people who made this decision were infiltrators.
Okay, then let me ask you this. Are you familiar with the works of Dave McGowan?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now his theory is that this whole movement, the whole 60s movement, the music, and even the Weathermen, were all a big giant psyops, and you guys were under some kind of mind control.
We're all what?
We're under some kind of mind control. It was like a psyop operation. It was a psychological operation. And even the music and the whole hippie movement was all designed.
Sense that I've already said that there was an atmosphere of war, and we reacted to that. But I mean, I'd have to see, for me to be convinced, I'd have to be shown that so-and-so, some individual that I was very close with, was a cop.
Right. And you never experienced that?
Any indication of that.
Well, let me ask you this then, not to keep interrupting you, I apologize, but now even in my experience with the Yippies, we would come along people all the time that were police informants, that were like double agents, even one guy who admitted he was involved with the KGB. And they were all like regular friendly guys, and a lot of these guys were drug informants. Yeah, go ahead.
Or he thought he was involved with the KGB. No, the anti-war movement, the Yippies attracted a lot of strange and sometimes crazy people.
Oh yeah.
And there were cops around, but they were not determining the direction of SDS. No, I consider us that we did it ourselves, and we did it, I think, because we wanted so badly for revolution to happen. We convinced ourselves. It is psychological, but not that they did it to us. We did it to ourselves. It goes like this.
Because you were so isolated.
Yeah. You get an idea. The idea is revolution, making a better world, justice, the end of militarism, feeding everyone. There's enough for us.
Looking for excitement? Chumba Casino is here. Play anytime, play anywhere. Play on the train, play at the store, play at home, play when you're bored. Play today for your chance to win and get daily bonuses when you log in. So what are you waiting for? Don't delay. Chumba Casino is free to play.
Experience social gameplay like never before. Go to Chumba Casino right now to play hundreds of games, including online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Live the Chumba life at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
All, these wonderful utopian ideas. And then you convince yourself that your ideas are true. It's the downside of idealism. Idealism is usually thought to be a moderately benign phenomenon, in that it makes people do good things, But idealism can also be that you believe your ideas too much. I have a bumper sticker on the back of my car right now. The bumper sticker says, "Don't believe everything you think."
Very good. We're going to be, this is that long break, Mark, so you can take a nice little break and go to the bathroom, have a drink, whatever you want to do. But we're here with Mark Rudd, author of Underground, My Life in the SDS and Weatherman. Incredible. I'm at the edge of my seat. I'm fascinated. I hope we can get Mark to come back many times, because even till to this day, he's organizing over there in New Mexico against police violence there and out of control police departments we have in this country right now. Right back after this. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I am your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. Every Friday night, freedomslips.com, and on Spreaker and iTunes and all over the place. We have with us tonight a very learned man, a very well-thoughtful man, Mark Rudd, who was one of the original founders of the SDS, Students for Democratic Society, and also the Weather Underground, and had to go underground himself for a good 7 years, I believe it was. Mark, you were saying about... Mark?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, when we were getting into the break there and the music was covering you over, you were talking about the bumper sticker.
Yeah, well, idealism.
Right.
Don't believe everything you think. Generally speaking, we're not right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. But now, what about the revolution in Venezuela now today? Would you be in support of that, or you would think it's
complicated?
Yeah.
You know, I'm a Venezuelan. I don't know what's actually going on. I don't know the ways in which clearly Chavez helped the poor in Venezuela. I don't know what the cost of that was. I don't know how the middle class is faring. You know, what deals had to be made with criminal elements. I understand in Venezuela the crime and extortion and kidnapping is out of control. So I don't know. I just don't know. I do know that there are better and worse governments in Latin America. Mm-hmm. But I've become kind of skeptical about revolution, especially revolutions that take place through violent means, because in the end, the violence seems not to ever stop. I'm not so much an enthusiast anymore. I have a secret to share with you.
Okay.
Ed, I am a card-carrying member. This will freak you out.
Oh man, I don't say it.
of the Democratic Party.
Ah. Okay.
I am a liberal.
And how much medication are you on? Let me ask you that. So
I am a liberal.
Okay, but you actually
I am a social democrat. Most of your listeners probably don't know what social democracy is, but it's the idea that you can sort of ameliorate the worst aspects of capitalism by using the resources of the government to equalize incomes and social resources, access to social resources like health and education and housing and whatever people need. And social democracy has been implemented in parts of Northern Europe and parts of Latin America now are going social democratic. It's not exactly revolutionary. It leaves capitalism intact, but it creates a fair and just society. There's a lot to be said, I think, for social democracy. Places are more peaceful. There tends to be less war. And that's what I am. I'm a social democrat, but I work within the Democratic Party. My goal is to transform the Democratic Party into what it should be, which is a party that looks out for the well-being of the people and the planet.
Okay,
and
but do you think
that's going to happen eventually?
Well, I wish you well. But do you think that is Yeah, can you hear me?
You cut off. Do I think?
I was going to say to you, do you think that is that how you would describe?
I'm sorry, you seem to be cutting out.
Oh no.
Be trouble. Let me look at
Okay.
It could be trouble on this side. No, I don't think so.
Oh, Ann says she hears me fine, so it might be you.
Okay.
It might be over your end.
Hold on. I'm going to move this computer a little bit closer to the router.
Okay, and she says that actually both of us sound fine, so it might be something in your headset.
Anyway, let's try it now.
Okay, well, is that how do you have any hope for the Obama administration? Do you think that this is any different from the Bush administration?
Oh, well, I think there's a little bit different.
A little bit.
A little bit.
What's the difference?
I think that generally speaking, we get the government we deserve, and we have not organized. There is not a movement for justice in this country yet, and for peace and for redistribution of wealth. It's just beginning, hopefully. And we have not organized, and Obama never advertised himself as anything more than a centrist politician. He's even worse than that. He's of the Clinton variety, center right. So,
I believe there is no left in this country whatsoever. There is no left that you can point to and say, well, this is what I would aspire to and would agree with.
Right. So why should Obama placate us? We're nothing.
I agree with you, and I think he's bought and sold by the same the bankers and Wall Street types that put Bush in. It's the same exact crowd.
No, but you see, we don't deserve power. You know, power goes to those who have the numbers or the money. We don't have the numbers. Look at the Progressive Caucus in Congress. It's a tiny group of people, 90 at most. The Tea Party organized them within 2 years. They controlled all of Congress. They're the ones who organized themselves and they seized power. And Obama reacts to that. There's no left. You're absolutely right. Let's get organizing.
Well, I know what you're saying. Why
should Obama? Obama has never been anything but a centrist politician.
Okay, but
that's who he is. He came of age. Obama. This is very important. Obama came of age during the period when politics in the United States were dominated by weren't very far apart. They were Reaganism and its democratic reaction, which was Clintonism. So those are the possibilities that Obama learned when he was 18 years old or 20 years old or 22. That's what people are stuck with, what they came of age. Now, Reaganism, hopefully, is still setting the agenda, but it's all proven to be useless, especially for young people. Young people are coming of age now, realizing that the government has to have some responsibility for the well-being of the people. They need stuff. They need relief from debt that they've incurred in having to pay so much for higher education. They need medical care. They need transportation. They need stuff. Provided. So Reaganism is kaput, and its response, which is center-right Clintonism, is kaput. Young people are beyond that now. That's why de Blasio is such a breath of fresh air. You know, maybe there'll be a progressive administration in New York that will be allowed to solve some problems. It'll be the first.
You know, one of the questions we had in the chat room earlier tonight, okay, was someone was asking if Obama was a member of the Weathermen. Okay.
It would have been the only 8-year-old.
I know, but the thing is
I think that this simple chronology can
right.
that problem. You know, the right wing has just gone bananas on Obama, right? They hate black people.
Yeah.
First of all, especially black people who are smarter than they are, and black people who are take a white job like president of the United States. So they have to find stuff on Obama. So they created a myth that Obama's a terrorist, Obama's this, Obama's that, Obama knew Bill Ayers. Therefore, you know, I saw, who was that wacko on Fox News who used to have a chalkboard? What was that?
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, Glenn Beck.
What was his name?
Glenn Beck.
Glenn Beck. I'm watching. Somebody called me up and said, turn on Fox News. So I turned on Fox News, and there is this idiot waving my book.
Okay.
On the blackboard, he's drawing a diagram of Mark Rudd, the Weather Underground Manifesto, which was, you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows, 1969, and Barack Obama, and that my book shows and proves conclusively that Obama is controlled by a manifesto written in 1960, a Marxist manifesto written in 1969. This is insanity.
Wait, you want to laugh real quick?
This ignorant, vile creature should be on television spewing this stupid stuff, and people believe it.
Mark Rudd, right this minute, I'm on TalkStream Live, and I can see the Glenn Beck show. He's on the radio right this minute, and we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are 5 hosts ahead of him, so we have more listeners listening to us right now than Glenn Beck does. Okay,
Is that the same channel as you?
No, not the same channel, but it's like it monitors all radio hosts that are on the air, like right this minute. And actually, we're number 8 right now in the whole country.
Uh-huh. How did he get kicked off? What did he do to get kicked off Fox News?
Oh my God. You know what? I don't even know. But he was doing that chalkboard thing over and over and over and over again. One of the reasons why I went looking for guys like you, guys from my youth, who I looked up to, formerly, I might add, Mark.
I wasn't going to be a hero anymore.
No. Trust me. Listen, I respect you that you can go any direction you want. Okay, that's your right. And you don't know anything to me. But anybody from those days of Bob Fass and taking over, are you kidding me? Taking over a Columbia University, I'm going to look up to you no matter what, and respect, even if you became a Republican. Okay.
No, there are limits.
Well, no, because Democrats and Republicans are the exact same, in my opinion. But the reason why I brought you on the show is because my audience is this group who think they're awake and aware, and they're Revolution Radio, and they're resisting the government, and they think Obama is a communist. They think he's a Muslim, some kind of a Muslim terrorist spy that snuck into the White House with fake ID.
That's your audience?
Well, no, not right now. Yeah.
I think maybe you should get a new audience.
Well, what I'm trying to the people who think that, and I'm trying to bring in guys, Cindy Sheehan coming up, who may, I guess, are more extreme than you these days, correct?
I'm not a conspiratorialist.
Well, neither is this isn't a conspiracy show, the one we're doing tonight.
Oh, I thought you...
I do conspiracy theories, of course. I've had a lot of really good conspiracy shows, but I wouldn't call this a conspiracy show.
I think we don't need conspiratorial theories because reality is terrible enough.
Well, then let's start at the beginning. You don't think the JFK assassination was a conspiracy?
No, actually, I think that it was a vast conspiracy.
Well, yeah.
The government.
Right, so it wasn't Oswald alone, correct?
I didn't get that.
You don't believe that Oswald was the lone shooter on
I don't believe in the tooth fairy either.
Okay, yeah. Well, then that's conspiracy, where two or more conspire together. I worked on conspiracy cases in New York City when Rudy Giuliani was trying to prosecute these big mafia cases in New York City, and he said they were conspiracy. He called it was a RICO prosecutions, that they were in conspiracy together to commit crimes. So
I've been won over to the belief that it was a vast conspiracy, and it involved the very top of the military and intelligence nexus.
I would agree with that. One of my guests is Mayor Jim Rothstein, who was the former NYPD detective, and he actually arrested Frank Sturgis. Uh-huh. And Sturgis confessed to him that he was one of the shooters.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Sturgis, that's the Sturgis of the
Watergate.
Of the Watergate, who was a Cuban anti-communist.
Exactly. Yes.
And terrorist. Didn't he also blow up a plane, Sturgis?
You know what? He probably did. Not that I'm familiar with. I don't know exactly. I couldn't testify in court to it, but if you say so, I'm sure it's possible. He was definitely into a lot of stuff.
Sturgis was also in on the CIA hunt for
Che Guevara.
For Che Guevara.
Yeah, there's a picture of him with the man who murdered Che Guevara. Who you
right.
recall his name, right?
Right, Frank Sturgis with was a picture of two guys posing with the body.
I forget off the top of my head right now. I can't remember the man who actually did the assassination of Che Guevara, but he actually does. The story is that he cut his hands off as proof, and he kept them in a jar in his refrigerator in his home.
I tell a story in my book of a comrade of mine being in Cuba on a trip before mine, which I believe was the end of 1960. No, after mine in 1970, and actually meeting with Fidel. And Fidel was very agitated, and Fidel told the story of that day in 1970, 3 years after the death of Che, receiving the hands of Che Guevara.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, no, the world is a brutal place. I don't think we're going to create utopia. And since I don't think we're going to create utopia, I think we've got to organize to do as best we can. Mass organizing. That's the trouble with the Weather Underground. We neglected, we avoided and undercut, sabotaged the good mass organizing that was going on around the war, and substituted a fantasy of revolution. We should have kept with that mass organizing. Who knows? Maybe we would have stopped the next imperialist war, which was against Central America in the 80s.
I agree with you, and I think that even today the goal should be general strike, where we all take to the streets and stop working until we can grind the system down to a halt.
Well, that's a nice fantasy, but I don't think that's going to happen, because I don't think people are there or will be there for a long time. But maybe they might vote for a decent candidate if we gave them decent candidates.
Well, let me ask you a question now. What do you think about what's going on here in Nevada? I live in Nevada at this Bundy Ranch, and where there's like this Waco-type siege going on, and people are rushing over there and putting themselves on the line in order to resist this.
Somebody mentioned it to me. I haven't seen read anything about it. Who's attacking the ranch?
Well, this guy, I forget his first name, but his last name is Bundy, has a cattle ranch out there, and he has some problems, dispute with the government. And the federal government, the Bureau of Land Management, has come in and surrounded him with a huge force of 200 agents with tanks and SWAT teams and helicopters. They're chasing his cattle around. They got them all. It's a siege right now, As a matter of fact, just tonight, because we had some people from our station going up there to cover this, I was supposed to go myself. But what happened is that they cut off the cell phone service and any Wi-Fi, so there's no radio communications going in or out of there right now. But it's a siege type thing, and people are mobilizing to go over there in defense of this rancher.
I don't know the details, but
right.
In general, the movement against the government in the West is I think is a bunch of hypocrisy, because there would be no West if it wasn't for the U.S. military that went in and conquered it and stole it from Mexico, first of all. And ranchers are benefiting continuously from government support of one sort or another. So it's just a bunch of libertarian hooey, right-wing, anti-government. A lot of it is racist. I think it's way misplaced. They should maybe be angry at the corporations that are driving the value of their agricultural products down.
Okay, now your theory is a liberal, social democratic type wing of the Democratic Party that would.
I think the Democratic Party historically has represented labor, minorities, and it got completely and totally distorted under Reaganism. So it's now time to get rid of Clintonism and build a progressive wing of the Democratic Party that will eventually take it over, just like the far right took over the Republican Party. It's exactly analogous. We have about 60 to 70% of the population, public opinion, already believes in stuff such as the right to medical care, the right to a free education, the right to not squander our national wealth with the military. These are things that people believe in, but they don't vote. They're not organized to vote.
But we're so dumbed down by this constant drumbeat of Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and his idiots calling Obama a communist. They're calling Obama and Hillary Clinton extreme liberal communist Marxists. Okay,
which they're not.
Right.
To me, they're right-wing capitalists, is what I see Obama.
Exactly. So what would you propose then? Like just by taxing the 1%? At what rate? Well, how would you fund all this?
When I was a kid, the local bank president in my town paid 90% of his income in taxes.
You know what? We're going to stop there, okay? We have a break coming up right now. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mark. You're a fascinating guy. We have 1/2 hour left after this. Capitalist. Author of Undergriund, Life in the SDS and Weathermen. We'll be right back after this break. We only have 1/2 hour left.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
He wants a challenge. Let's give him one.
The voice that whispers in your ears are the screams that you fear. The mind you cannot defy is the heart that rules mankind. The people who made you are the gods that will save you. I am Steve Travesty. I am the voice. The ghost in the machine. Ghost in the Machine, Tuesdays, 8 p.m., Studio A.
Right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Hey folks, Captain Nighthawk here. Do you have a favorite host? Well, imagine if you will having all the broadcast shows from 2013 to listen to anytime you want. Awesome deal, huh? Anyway, so stop by freedomslips.com and order the entire 2013 library of your favorite host for just $30. Not only do you help with the station funding to keep us on the air, you also help the host because they get half of the net on every order. Also, we have Revolution Radio's all-time favorite shows all on one disc. The details are really broad, so you'll have to visit the website and go look at the details yourself. It's, again, www.freedomslips.com/season2013.htm. And get your favorites. First come, first serve, 7 to 21 days for delivery. Thank you. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps, including me. Later.
We've got to stop them! They're going to kill us all! There is no good and evil. There is only power. And those too weak to seek it.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Be sure to tune in weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time for Strange Universe with Sean David Morton. A strange, interesting, and engaging wide variety of topics. So be here. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com.
I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey.
Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. We're here tonight with Mark Rudd, author of Underground, My Life in the SDS and Weatherman. Mark, what's your website again? MarkRudd.com?
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather, now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
That's it.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff on there. So here we are. We're trying to solve all the world's problems, okay? So what would be your proposal exactly?
Just build a movement of people in this country who believe that there is such a thing as the common good. We're all in this together, you know, and that there has to be more of an equalization of incomes, because the people who have the wealth didn't do it themselves, and the people who get paid minimum wage are not getting enough to get by. That's not a just society. It's not fair. We're all in this together, the common good. Before Reaganism, I grew up with something called the common good. I was just, before the break, mentioning that the highest incomes were taxed at a 90% rate when I was a kid. That's normal, because those who have more have to contribute more into the pot. You know?
I agree with you, Mark, but how do we, I would say right off the bat that we would double the tax of the top 1% in this country, and I believe that the rest of us, 350 million of us, would have to pay no income tax, because just doubling their tax would increase the revenue by 40% the first year.
I'd have to see the math.
I've done the math, but the thing is, too, I haven't done it lately.
You may be right.
I haven't done it.
I would tend to doubt it, but it might be. You could be right.
But Mark,
there has to be a mass movement to do this, and people are highly depoliticized.
I agree.
And so we can offer people a party that will take their interests into account. why this is more ridiculous than, or more absurd an idea than everybody going on general strike, which is your idea, I don't understand. Because to me, it's easier to get people to vote than it is to get people to not go to work or for some cause. I mean, talk about fantasies.
Well, but the thing is, you're discouraging. Discouraging remark. But the thing is,
I don't want to encourage your fantasy. I think we need some practical solutions. And my idea is build a progressive caucus of the Democratic Party at the local level, state level, and finally we'll get to Washington.
And then the plan would be then to tax the 1%. But how would they allow that?
They won't have the votes. Or, they could call out the army, but then that would be the end of their democracy. Well, we haven't even tried to use the votes. We haven't organized a movement. Obama didn't promise socialism. He didn't promise equalizing incomes. He promised there were vague promises. It's true. And incidentally, as a human being, he's a very interesting human being. I suggest everyone, right, left, libertarian, conspiratorialist, everybody should read his book, Dreams from My Father, because this guy grew up understanding the world in a way that no other U.S. president, and probably 99% of the population, does not understand the world. His father was an African nationalist, a Kenyan nationalist, who died of alcoholism because of tribalism and neo-colonialism. And this man understands that. His stepfather was an Indonesian nationalist who was killed by a colonial regime in Indonesia, also an alcoholic. He understands the world in a way that probably you and I don't understand this.
Okay, fine.
But he doesn't act on it.
That's what I was going to say. That may be fine, but he comes out of a corrupt Chicago political machine, and he gets into office and does nothing. He changes no policy whatsoever. And what do you think of Obamacare? You don't think that's Obamacare? You think that's some kind of fair medical program for people? Or
Obamacare is hideous.
Yeah,
I like the idea that 7 million more people have coverage than before. That's it. That's about the best we could have, considering that there aren't people in the streets rioting for medical coverage. Come on, let's be realistic, Ed.
Yeah, and I'm being realistic.
Are you not screaming and demanding? Obama got 7 million more, despite the fact that there's a Republican Party that wants no social involvement in medical care, and the Democratic Party itself is sold out to the pharmaceutical and hospital and medical interests.
Who wrote Obamacare, by the way? It was the lobby, the insurance lobby that wrote Obamacare, and it benefits the insurance company by forcing us to buy insurance.
All true. Why didn't the masses go out on strike?
Because no one read it.
Medicine.
Because no one understands it. Because we're being fooled by the media, which is owned by, again, 6 corporations.
All true.
Right.
So Obama works within the limitations. I read an interesting.
Wait a second. You actually believe that Obama, there's even a shred of this man that is concerned about you or me or anybody like us?
I know. Here's what I know.
Yeah.
98% of all black people still support Obama. And that means something to me. And the reason that they support him is they know about the racist, vicious scumbags who have had him in their sights from the moment he was elected. And they know about the insanity around him being a black man. And they know about his limitations. I read an interesting
wait a second. But wait.
I read a fascinating interview some years ago with Obama and Rolling Stone, in which he mused. He said, for a lot of people, it really is very difficult for them the idea that there's a black president. It really freaks them out. Maybe that's about as far as I can go. I think most black people believe that. I still support Obama, even though Obamacare is a terrible disappointment. But I'm not going to join with the racists.
No.
Attacking
Listen,
Obama.
So then the only reason you support Obama is because he's black?
Yeah.
Well, then what about, what's his name?
I think that's a great improvement.
How about Colin Powell?
Oh, yeah, I know. He's a torturer, too.
What about Al Sharpton? Put Al Sharpton in the president.
All I know is it's kind of cool to have a black president.
Well,
he's no worse. Obama is no worse than his predecessors, especially.
Oh, no, he's no worse. No, he's exactly the same. He's exactly the same as Bush. And I was fooled by it, too, my friend. Listen, when it was the big debate, is going to be Romney or Obama, I knew nothing would change. I knew we were going to still stay in Iraq. We're going to still.
You're a very smart person. You know that. But I don't get the point. I think it's cool to have a black president, and I'm not.
I thought it was too, but and I fell for that.
And I'm not going to feed that. You know, don't feed it. You know, no. Obama can only go as far as the politics allows. This country, the government is controlled by the military and corporations behind the military and the medical corporations and capital. Money talks. Money talks. That's who owns the country. That's who runs the country.
Right.
It's an oligarchy. I don't attack one black man because that's the system we have. I attack the system. I think he's a cool black man. If you read his book, you'll see how cool he is. But that's not the point. The point is we live in an oligarchy, and the president of the United States does not run the show.
Oh, yeah, right.
So let's stop attacking one more black man. I assume you're white. I've seen your picture. I'm white. I've had enough of white people attacking a black man. And I know that most of the attacks from the right, all the attacks from the right are because he's black. They cannot, it drives them to madness.
No, I agree with you with that. I see that ingredient in the anti-Obama crowd, okay?
It's in Obamacare too. Look, Obamacare is you said it, it's a corporate bill.
Yeah.
And it was up against terrible opposition for the corporations in the Republican Party. The Republican Party is 1,000% for the corporations. The Democratic Party wants to ameliorate things a little bit. So the corporations got the bill, and it's called Obamacare. As a result, 7 million more people are covered. I'm happy for those 7 million more people. A black man is in charge. I'm not going to attack the black man like white people always do. I'm going to say this is a stupid structure that we live in. Oligarchy, meaning the rule of the rich, is not a democracy. And let's build democracy by building a political party that represents the people. Enough fantasies about general strikes. Let's have a political.
Give me a break about the general strike, okay? Listen, okay, give me a break, Mark, please. Okay, first of all,
I'm just saying. Yeah. Look, the Republican, the far right took power. They got the Congress. And if they could, they would take the presidency. They've also taken the Supreme Court. Why can't the left that represents the common good and about 60 or 70% of public opinion, why can't we organize for power? That's the job.
Well, you have Cynthia McKinney, right? Who was in Congress. And I was just talking to her last week, and she could relate to some experience. She's a black woman, okay, and we're friends, okay. And she would relate to you that her experience in Congress was one of overt racism, and even with the congressional cops, the cops on the metal detectors and stuff,
Yeah. That's part of the militarization.
Yeah.
That we're going through.
But back to Obamacare for a second too. Now, don't you think for a second that maybe those 7 million people who 7 million you said who have now healthcare? Or don't you think maybe some of those 7 million had to buy the healthcare because they were afraid of the penalties and going to jail and stuff?
Well, it's a stupid system. It's dumb. It's horrible.
Yeah, but you said you support it.
But it's just a little bit. Yeah, it's a little.
Because it's a little bit what? That we're forced to buy healthcare? I don't want to buy it.
People who are uninsured cost us. Those of us who are insured. That's just the truth. It costs the whole society to have uninsured. That's why we should have universal health insurance for everybody. That's what normal, intelligent societies do. Obamacare is not that.
Right. So then why would you say you support it? Because 7 million people have health care now. Have health insurance. They don't have health care. They have health insurance. They have a bill. 7 million people have a brand new bill this month that they didn't have last month.
Yeah, but they have health care.
You almost made me curse. Okay, screw that health care, man. Listen. Those people who cannot afford and are buying Obama insurance, we shouldn't even call it Obamacare, the Obama insurance policy that are now forced at the point of a gun to buy that insurance, should be given free medical care.
Everybody should have free medical care.
I agree
Everybody
with you.
should have free higher.
This is the problem with the left, my friend, is that we argue with each other too much. Okay? And no, it's true. And we cannibalize each other because nobody's left enough for us to satisfy each other or whatever it is,
And we're purists. That's because we're idealists.
You remind me so much of Abby Hoffman, too. Did you meet Abby and hang out with Abby?
I knew Abby quite well.
Yeah. Do you have that same confrontation, wants to argue about everything? You know what I mean?
I missed that last thing you said. The same what?
Confrontational, wants to argue about everything. You know?
Yeah, we come from the same place.
Yeah, New York, yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, he was from Massachusetts, and he had a terrible accent, too.
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
No, but I don't know. It's just, I'm so frustrated. It's killing me how far from power the left is, and how, and I think it's our own fault. I mean, for the reasons you said, that we can't unite, and I believe that there's a simple strategy that will take the rest of our lives and our children's lives and maybe our children's lives, and it is to build a progressive wing of the Democratic Party to take power. I don't see any other possible strategy.
Okay, let me propose this to you, because you're a student of Che, right? Who said that we should take the weapons of our enemy and capture those weapons and then turn those weapons against him.
Yeah, well, Che had a thing about guns.
Right. But in today's, I see the weapon used against us today is the media. And that people like you and me should take our small media outlets that we can capture from the enemy, from the oppressor, and use that against them. Because I think that the main problem we're dealing with is the brainwashing of the media, of Rush Limbaugh, 24/7, about the liberal this, the liberal that, the liberal, how can you call Obama a liberal? I don't even see it. I would call you a liberal, and I have no problem with that. But
I'm a liberal.
Yeah, I see it. And I would accept you over Obama in a million years, and I would be happy. I would be happy living under your ideal.
I'm not as smart as Obama, but I think that I still have my old religion. My old religion is socialism.
Right.
I believe that we're all in this together, and that the resources of society need to be shared.
And to do that, under socialism, we would have to nationalize certain industries, like the oil industry, like they did in Venezuela.
Well, I don't like to scare people,
Okay.
That's why I'll go so far as to say we'll regulate.
Okay.
We'll have a more income distribution. Those are the kinds of transformations I think are make good moral common sense.
Okay. I like that. Okay. I like that.
Common sense thing to do is to take care of your neighbors. You know where Reaganism started. It started with the Civil Rights Movement as a reaction to the Civil Rights Movement. What it was white people, a lot of white people said, "I'm not going to take care of black people. I don't like black people. I don't want them to get ahead at my expense. People don't recognize the privileges that accrued being white in the society, and the structural privileges and the generations of capital accumulation that happened to white people. Take a guy like John McCain, who ran for president. Did you know that McCain's ancestors were slave owners in Mississippi? Right?
I'm sure they were.
That's how his father and his grandfather got to be admirals. That's the structure of white privilege in the society that produced a dummy like John McCain, who eventually ran for president and who has a lot to say in Congress, most of which is absurd.
Yeah.
And so that structure, or the structure of white privilege that produced the Bush dynasty, which gave us a person of mediocre intelligence and no curiosity about the world, a very callow,
privileged,
selfish little person as president. That structure of white privilege, white people said, no, it doesn't exist. It's all merit. Everything is merit. Everything that people have, they deserve. And when people don't have anything, it's because they don't deserve it.
Or they don't want to work for it.
Right. So after civil rights, white people said, screw these people. There is no such thing as society. There's no common good. We're not going to pay taxes anymore. And we're just going to go for ourselves. And that's the origin of Reaganism, is screw black people. And we're stuck with that now. But we've got to come back to an idea that there is such a thing as society and there is a common good. And we're all in this together.
Okay, listen, we're down to less than 10 minutes. Okay, so.
Am I tiring you out, Ed?
Yes, you are. I love you. I love you in so many ways you can't imagine. But I don't see any hope. We have less than 5 minutes, and I don't want to take up the last 5 minutes.
If there's no hope, I mean, there's got to be hope.
No, I don't see any hope in putting my faith in the Democratic Party, and then we're going to create this new wing. I see no.
Okay, give me a viable alternative.
Well, it includes firing squads. You're going to get upset with me?
No, I don't think that's acceptable.
Okay. You talk me out of it.
I'm beyond guns.
Yeah, I know you are, man, and I appreciate that.
That's for kids. Kids have fascination with guns, violence, the desire to prove themselves as men, or women now proving themselves. No, that's kid stuff.
Well, we have less than 5 minutes. What do you want to tell us, Mark? There's a lot of young guys out here who.
It's very simple. What we got to do is study successful social movements of the past, of the 20th century especially. Civil rights movement, the gay movement, the disability rights movement, the women's movement. Study these movements, learn how they got organized. That's all. Stop just talking.
Well, wait a second, Mark, because the women's movement was funded by the Rockefellers.
Oh, you're biased, man.
No?
Listen, women have made a lot of progress because of the women's movement. You know
okay, but you say let's start a movement, and you got the women's movement. You have Gloria Steinem working for the CIA coming out of there, and it was funded by the Rockefellers. You got the Rockefellers going to help us out?
You want to go back to the days of Mad Men? What do you want?
Well, that's a whole other story.
With your wife, do you have a wife?
Nah, not anymore, because I go back to the days of Mad Men. I don't have a wife.
Or you should have said you're gay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there you go.
No, it doesn't work. Misogyny doesn't work. Those days are over. Feminism is I once saw a bumper sticker that said, feminism is the belief that women are human beings.
I think you put too much faith in bumper stickers, my friend.
And don't believe everything you think.
Yeah. Well, we're down to such a short time. What do you want to tell people? Mark, you're a historical figure. Organized.
That's why the Obama administration is such a failure, because we didn't organize. We organized enough to get the guy elected. And that was a fantasy. I call it drinking the Kool-Aid. I drank the Kool-Aid too. Lots of kids drank the Kool-Aid. We get a guy elected, we think that's enough. It's not enough. Power did not shift. We need to figure out how to shift power. If we don't, the planet's going to be destroyed, because capitalism is very quickly destroying the atmosphere, that which we live on, the water. There's such a thing as global warming. It's happening because of rampant capitalism. It's got to be controlled.
So what are you doing in New Mexico right now? Do you have your own group or anything?
At the moment, we're working on trying to figure out how to unite people to fight police violence. And it's very hard to unite people, because everybody has different ideas and they come from different places and they have their own ways of looking at things. So what I'm working on today and all week and the last few weeks has been how to unite people into a common organization with common goals and strategy to fight the power. Very hard. Yeah. Very hard work. And it's the same with any issue. Global warming, cleaning up the water, the keeping the planet livable.
Well, Mark, do you have any events coming up that you want to invite people to? Because we're down to 1 minute.
I think we've got to we've got to organize politically for power, and that involves progressive candidates at the local level and a progressive organization within the Democratic Party.
Are you involved in any of these protests against police violence in New Mexico right now? Because I know there's a lot.
Yeah, tomorrow there's a big demonstration.
There you go. Where is it? Where is it?
Highlighting the report that came out yesterday, talking about all the police abuses, violence, murder.
I know we have that here. We have that here in Nevada too, my friend. It's out of control. And it's a whole new different kind of police force than when I was growing up in New York City, which was bad enough. And here it's just occupation.
The military mentality is us versus them.
Yeah.
We're good, they're bad, kill them. That's not what a police force should be. A police force should be to respect people and to serve people. And that's the goal.
Well, that's our cue that the show is over. We had Mark Rudd, a historical figure, the author of Underground, My Life in the SDS, and Weatherman. Mark has a website called markrudd.com. Thank you, Mr. Rudd. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you having on the show tonight.
Thank you, Ed. I'm sorry I tired you out.
I'm tired anyway, man. I'm going through some stuff in my personal life. But thank you very much, my friend, okay?
Thank you.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you want to get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.